Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I want to share with you 5 yoga poses, or just 5 poses that you can do when you're feeling discomfort or pain or tension when you're having menstrual cramps. So this could include when you're having PMS or when you're actually bleeding, when you're on your period, or even sometimes when you're ovulating, because if you're like me, sometimes when you ovulate, you also get that very similar kind of twinginess in your low back. So these 5 poses are ones that I go to myself to help relieve some of that tension, some of that discomfort, so that I feel a little bit better during those times. Now, I'm going to be using a wall for one of the poses. I'm going to be using a chair for 2 others, and a yoga block as well for another. So this is a particular practice that uses more props than I usually use, but do make sure you have them because they will benefit you in a big way. Highly recommend. Okay, so let's get started with the first one. So the very first pose that we're going to do is at a wall. And this is actually one that my mom taught me when I was like maybe 15, 13, I don't know. But it was when I was first really struggling with discomfort when I was getting my period. And I was like, why does my back hurt? She explained. But what she did was she suggested that I go to a wall and I back myself up against the wall. So basically, my sacrum is against the wall. And I can place my hands on my thighs with my knee bent. So you can think of it as like a supported chair pose. Now, all you're really going to do is you can think of it as like cat-cow at the wall. So you round back a little bit, so your hips will lift. It's almost like you're tucking your pelvis a little bit, pulling up through your low abdomen, and then lengthen out. Okay, so rounding your back up as much toward the wall as you can. Your legs will get a little straighter, and then arching away from the wall. Okay, so it's like you're giving just a little bit of a massage to your low back. Now, I'm on a fairly narrow part of the wall. I recommend doing this on a nice flat wall where you have a little bit more support, but just rounding back, arching against the wall. You can even wiggle a little bit. Sometimes that wiggle feels good, and then arching away. Okay, so a few more times, just rounding up, arching against the wall. So you're not really tucking, you're just curving your spine toward the wall, and then arching your spine away from the wall. Okay, so your sacrum remains in contact with the wall the whole time, and your sacrum is that sort of flat triangular part of your spine that's fused with your coccyx, and it's the very base of your spine, below your lumbar spine. You can think of it as like your sacrum is right above like your butt crack. Okay, and then just a few more times. So that part of your spine sort of stays in contact with the wall the whole time. You're just rounding toward it more and arching away. Okay, one more time. Round up toward it and then arch away. Oh, yeah. And then ease yourself back up the wall and grab your chair. Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of chair you use. I have a pretty typical straight back chair, and I'm going to put it up toward the front of my mat. Okay, and you could do this without a mat. All the things we're doing don't really necessarily need a mat. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is like a chair dog. Okay, so my hands are right on top of the chair. I can bend my knees, and with my knees bent, I can just stretch away just a little. And one of the things that feels really nice to do when I stretch away is to just arch so that I'm rounding through the left side of my back. So I sort of curl my spine to the left and lean into my left hip, and then I round over to the other side and lean into my right hip. So my weight is going into my right leg. So again, curl over to the left, curl over to the right. My knees stay bent the entire time because that just allows me to create a little bit more stretch and length through my low back. Can swish my hips from side to side, which feels kind of nice. Okay, now the next thing that you could do while you're here is keep your hands right at the very top of the chair. Step one leg forward. In this case, I'm taking my right leg forward, left leg back, and plant my left heel. Okay, now if you're close to the chair, you could rest your forearms on the chair. Maybe even bring your palms together or take your elbows to the chair and rest your head on your palms if that feels good. But I usually like to hang down a little bit, push my forearms into the chair, and just round and stretch. Okay, now another thing that can feel good if your hamstrings are fairly strong and stable and stretchy is you could actually walk all the way down, maybe even hold on to the rungs of the chair or put your hands on the floor. And just round up as much as you can, pressing your spine, the middle part of your spine, upward toward the ceiling. And again, you can have your hands anywhere on the chair if getting all the way down to the ground doesn't feel good. Let's switch sides. So step your left foot up, right leg back. And if you really want more chair support, I recommend stepping further back away from the chair so that you can really lengthen here. The closer you are to the chair, the more you're going to get stuck, right? You're going to have less space to lengthen. So you want to step far enough back that maybe it's just your hands on the chair if you want more space. And you can push and lengthen, really anchoring through your back leg. In this case, it's your right leg that is back. And of course, you could walk down and reach for the floor if that feels good. Okay, you could also hold on to any part of the chair, maybe going lower, holding on to the rungs. If you're closer in, you could hold on to the bottom legs, depending on your chair. But come on back up, keep holding on to the chair. Now, I'm going to rest my forearm on the chair just in service of space, okay? But lift your left leg up and just lengthen. And you can have your left hand alongside your left leg. And you could also take your left arm alongside your ear. And I would say with this one, having a little bit more space is nice. I don't quite have enough space to lengthen here in this like tight sort of yoga space that I have. But the idea is, let's see if I can scoot this a little bit more forward. The idea is if I can stand on my right foot, which points toward the chair, I'm going to have my right hand on a rung or down on the bottom, trying to lengthen my left arm over and have my left forearm pressing into the top of the chair. Woo! That might happen. Right, that gives me a little bit more length through my left hip, left side of my back. I can even curl down and round up through my left side. Okay, so if you can have your right hand on the floor. You can also have it on the chair, whichever feels good. Let's do the other side though. Okay, so same idea. Left forearm is on the chair or holding on a little bit lower. Turn your left foot so it points toward the chair, right leg lifts. And I want to take my right arm alongside my ear so I can press down with my forearm and round up a little bit. Now, if you do have a wall, you could also push your right foot into the wall, give yourself a little bit more support, and lengthen more through your right side. All of those things, you can take your right leg down, will help in service of creating length and space through the side and back of your body. And this is really, generally speaking, where you're going to feel those low back cramps, that sort of junkiness in your low back when you have PMS or when you're actually bleeding on your period, okay? So the last one that we're going to do is with that yoga block. You can come down onto your back and you're going to do a supported bridge pose. Now, this is actually one of my favorites. You want to take this block, you want it to be on the middle height. That's as high as you want it to be. You don't want it to be on the highest. Okay, knees are bent, feet on the floor about hip width apart. You're going to take the block, first bend your elbows to lift your chest, hips go up, and then you take the block, slide it underneath your hips again, placing it right above your butt crack on your sacrum so that your butt cheeks hang off the edge. You can rest your hands on your belly and just breathe. You can take your arms overhead if that feels good, or in cactus out to the sides. But that support here allows the front of your belly to soften and relax. You could also just walk your feet out a little bit wider, maybe stretch your legs straight if that feels good. And it does for some people, it doesn't for others, so you can just play with that a little bit, but getting that length through the front is just a really nice feeling to have when you have cramps, when you're on your period. And it just feels good in general. It just feels good. And again, you want to make sure that the block is not on your lumbar spine. It's not on your low back, right? So that your whole butt is hanging off. You want it right above your butt crack. So most of your butt cheeks are hanging off the edge, but not the entire thing. Okay? And then if you lift your hips up, you can slide the block out. And just one more really nice thing to do for your back, right here, is to take your feet as wide as your mat if you're on a mat and drop your knees over to the left. Just let them fall. And that will give you a little bit more stretch through the front of your belly and through your low back on the right side. If you want more length, you can curl a little bit to the left and take your right arm alongside your ear. Again, just really nice back and belly stretch. And then you come on back through center, take your knees over to the right. And again, you can just do this and have the knees fall to the right, or you can take your left arm alongside your ear and curl your body a little bit over to the right as well. You don't have to have your feet very close in. In fact, I recommend having your feet a little further away from your butt so that you have more space. And then come on back to center. And then roll to your side and push yourself up to sit. So to recap, those are 5 poses, 5 actions that I like to do for my body when I'm feeling crampy on my period or when I have PMS, like right before I start to bleed, and maybe on that first or second day, just to relieve some of that low back strain and tension. First one we did was at the wall, right? Doing a little cat-cow in a supported chair pose. Next ones we did with the chair. So we did chair dog, where you stretch out and arc from side to side. The next one was a straight leg pose where one leg is forward, the other is back. And again, you're rounding into the back of your body to just give more stretch to the middle and lower part of your back. Then you did a variation of half moon, right? Using the chair for support with your arm alongside your ear, again to get into the back body on both sides. And then finally, we did a supported bridge pose with a block underneath your sacrum and then closing it out with a little side-to-side knee action for one final low back release. So I hope that you find this useful when you are feeling discomfort, when you are bleeding, when you're on your period. I hope that this just gives you a little bit of relief when you're feeling kind of junky and gross, and just makes the whole process of shedding some of that, some of the lining of your uterus a little bit more pleasant as it can be. So thanks for hanging out with me on the mat today. I look forward to hearing how this practice supported you when you needed it the most. You can leave me a comment in the comments below. As always, please make sure to subscribe in that bottom left corner. If you're me, it's the bottom left. If you're facing the screen, it's your bottom right. But if you subscribe, you'll get videos like this in your inbox every single week, totally for free. We get to hang out and do yoga all the time. It's kind of awesome. So I look forward to seeing you back here again soon. And until then, take care, be well.